What if I revealed that the single factor dividing you from excelling in any field isn't smarts, but your approach to learning? Many folks assume that learning involves rote memorization or stuffing data into their brains. Yet brilliant thinkers grasp a distinct reality. There's a method so straightforward it nearly seems evident. Still, it compels the mind to soak up and genuinely comprehend information at a depth most individuals seldom attain. Consider this. A person who decoded several of the profoundest enigmas of contemporary physics wasn't famous for complicating matters, but for simplifying them. His talent was so uncommon that he could describe the most intricate occurrences of the universe as though narrating a tale to a kid. And that's precisely where the mystery resides. Expertise doesn't hinge on innate brilliance, but on a cognitive strategy so potent that anybody can employ it. And here's the astonishing fact. You can utilize this precise system to acquire virtually whatever you desire. Tongues, sciences, commerce abilities that currently may appear unattainable to you. The mystery isn't infinite sessions of aimless toil or relentless cramming. The mystery is compelling your intellect to restructure data in a manner that it can never erase. In this clip, I'm set to demonstrate you gradually how to implement the most effective studying strategy on the planet. And by the conclusion, you'll recognize that your intellect isn't merely a repository container for data, but a dynamic device built to streamline, link, and generate significance. And once you master how to operate it, you'll uncover that conquering anything isn't merely feasible, it's unavoidable. So remain tuned, because what you're on the verge of discovering could alter not solely how you absorb, but how you view your personal capabilities. Let's start immediately. Picture yourself confronting a tough topic. It might be physics, mathematics, finance, coding, a foreign tongue, whatever seems beyond grasp. Many individuals confront that obstacle and believe, I must commit everything to memory. But here's the initial adjustment. Avoid beginning with cramming. Commence with streamlining. Select one solitary idea, merely one. Jot down what you've grasped on a piece of paper as though you were clarifying it to a 7-year-old. Employ basic terms, brief statements, ordinary illustrations. When you perform this, something potent occurs. You compel your intellect to forsake elaborate terminology and hunt for lucidity. That's the initial jolt. Since as you attempt to streamline, you start to reveal voids that were concealed previously. That sensation of I believe I understand vanishes, and you perceive precisely where you lack. It's uneasy, but it's emancipating. You're no more deceiving yourself. You're confronting wisdom directly. Picture, for instance, that you're studying fractions. Rather than beginning with official explanations, you grab a pizza. You clarify, if I slice it into 2 identical sections, each portion is 1/2. You omitted numerators or denominators, but you seized the core. It's straightforward, it's lucid, it's unforgettable. And what transpires here is remarkable. When you convert the intricate into the basic, your mind constructs profounder ties. Data ceases to be something remote and turns into part of your innate lexicon. You might not notice it, but you are instructing yourself at the most basic stage. This is the initial phase to compelling your intellect to acquire anything. Invariably start by streamlining. Reject the delusion of intricacy, since when you can clarify something basically, it signifies you have genuinely started to grasp. Now that you've streamlined the idea, it's time to advance to the phase that distinguishes those who simply scan from those who truly absorb, instructing. Focus intently here, because this is the mystery. Instructing doesn't imply possessing a lecture hall, pupils, or a chalkboard. Instructing implies articulating aloud as though you were conversing with somebody inquisitive who has never encountered the topic previously. It could be a companion, your device's recorder, a reflection, or even a vacant seat. The crucial aspect is to convert cognition into speech. When you attempt to instruct, something enchanting transpires. The mind is compelled to arrange concepts in a coherent order, and abruptly what appeared evident in your thoughts begins to crumble. You pause, omit a section, fail to locate the appropriate terms. That instant is not defeat. It's the precise spot where absorption occurs. It's the instant when the delusion of wisdom evaporates and your intellect discloses its voids. Rather of fleeing from this unease, plunge into it. Each time you attempt to instruct and recognize you cannot, you've obtained a present. You've uncovered the void in your comprehension, and only when you perceive that void can you mend it. Consider how youngsters narrate tales. They aren't scared to falter, fabricate terms, or reiterate themselves. And exactly because of that, they absorb so quickly. When you place yourself in that position, instructing something you don't yet completely command, you engage the identical innate system of rapid absorption. This is the subsequent phase. Instruct so as to absorb. The more you instruct, the more you grasp. Wisdom doesn't harden within your skull via quiet scanning, but via the clamor of your personal speech. Uttering arranges, elucidates, and secures it firmly. Recall, you're not instructing to dazzle. You're instructing to uncover. Since with each clarification, your intellect reconstructs itself, and what once appeared unattainable starts to integrate into your being. You streamlined. You attempted to instruct, and during the procedure you discovered voids. The following phase is to revert to the content, examine it, and streamline once more. This loop is what compels your intellect to convert data into authentic wisdom. Here's a hands-on illustration. Picture you're absorbing details on gravity. Initially you jot, gravity is the power that draws objects toward one another, proportionate to their weight and inversely proportionate to the square of the separation. It appears elegant. It appears specialized, but did you truly grasp it? Now attempt to clarify it to a youngster. Gravity resembles an unseen attractor that tugs all things earthward. The larger the item, the mightier the tug. That's why the planet maintains the moon circling about it. Finished, rather of an elaborate explanation, you now possess a basic conceptual picture. That is the strength of examination. You seize what you couldn't clarify effectively, return to the origin, locate the fresh illustration, exchange challenging terminology for basic visuals, and then attempt anew. It's akin to refining a coarse rock until it turns into a gem. And here's the essential. Each time you examine and streamline, your intellect restructures itself. What formerly was delicate turns sturdy. What formerly was a committed phrase turns genuine comprehension. You no more depend on recitation because now you grasp. This is the third phase to compelling your intellect to acquire anything. Examine until you can clarify it basically. Since only when you can express it in plain terms have you genuinely absorbed it. If you've streamlined, instructed, and examined, you're already well beyond most individuals. But there's yet a superior stage, inventive reiteration. It's not reiterating merely to reiterate. It's reiterating in varied manners as though you are toying with the wisdom. The mind adores diversity. When you offer the identical notion from varied perspectives, you establish numerous ties. It's akin to bolstering a span with numerous supports. The more perspectives, the sturdier the comprehension. Here are distinct illustrations. You absorb details on electricity. Following streamlining and examining, convey the identical clarification three manners. Initially with cables and bulbs, then by likening it to liquid streaming through tubes, and lastly by drawing it on parchment. Each variant secures a distinct segment of the notion, absorbing history. Don't merely chant timelines, transform it into a narrative. A starving populace toppling an unfair ruler. The French Revolution. Then convey it as a theatrical performance. Then as a periodical title. Absorbing a tongue. Clarify the identical phrase in varied scenarios. Observe the trend. The substance remains the identical, but the structure alters. That alteration compels the mind to forge fresh connections. The outcome, you don't merely grasp, you grow capable of applying the wisdom in any circumstance. And here's the aspect nearly nobody observes. When you toy with absorption, the mind regards it as delight. Delight engages recall mechanisms much more robustly than duty. That's why youngsters absorb through toying. They're not merely gathering, they're relishing. So the fourth phase is this. Don't become a robotic reciter. Become a producer of variance. Each fresh manner of clarifying is a stratum of adhesive that fixes the wisdom enduringly. But now focus intently, because there's an instant when numerous individuals surrender. Mistake. You attempt to streamline, clarify, examine, and you still falter. The terms don't emerge. The reasoning falters. The clarification collapses. Most individuals interpret that as an indicator of defeat, but the reality is precisely the contrary. Mistake is the guide that directs the path to authentic absorption. Consider it. When you commit an error, it doesn't signify you comprehend zilch. It signifies you located the precise spot where your intellect hasn't yet constructed a sturdy span, and that's exactly where you ought to labor. The mistake isn't a barrier, it's the blueprint. Picture your absorbing chance. You attempt to clarify why the probability of obtaining heads or tails is 50%. The initial occasion you state because there are two choices and one of them must occur. It appears reasonable, but it's partial. When you falter, you recognize you require to comprehend more regarding autonomous occurrences. The error revealed the void. Now, when you examine, you return mightier and your clarification advances. A coin possesses no recall. Each flip is autonomous, which is why the probability is invariably 50 or 50. Another illustration, you attempt to clarify photosynthesis and omit to reference sunshine. In the unease of that era, you're compelled to examine. Subsequent occasion, you never omit again because the defeat turned into a lasting imprint of recall. And here's the essential. Each error is a practice. The more you falter while clarifying, the more unprocessed substance you possess to convert into lucidity. It's akin to a carver who with each incorrect blow uncovers the contour of the rock until the shape appears. When handled with wisdom, mistake turns into a catalyst for advancement. But to accomplish that, you require a methodical mindset, inquisitiveness rather than criticism. Inquire yourself, what precisely led me to this? By responding, you fortify the very link that was fragile previously. This is the fifth phase. Don't dread errors. Welcome them. They don't demonstrate your incapacity. They demonstrate you're challenging the boundaries of your intellect. And it's at those boundaries that authentic absorption transpires. Now, to secure this in your intellect, enter in the remarks, I select to absorb sans boundaries. This isn't merely a remark, it's your pledge to your personal intellect. When you inscribe it, you dispatch a straightforward directive to your mind, and it commences operating in your benefit. Consider it as the initial phase in your reconditioning, proclaiming to yourself that there are no obstacles to what you can absorb. Now, you already comprehend the route. Streamline, instruct, examine, toy, and convert errors into instruments. These are the phases that compel the intellect to absorb anything. But there's one final component that cannot be overlooked. Diligent labor. Yes, there is approach. Yes, there is strategy. But sans genuine exertion, nothing flourishes. The mind resembles a muscle. It must be taxed. It requires opposition to evolve. There is no brilliance sans self-control. The reality is that each brilliant thinker toiled diligently, more diligently than most deemed feasible. And that's what bestowed strength to the approach. What transforms when you implement this recipe is that exertion ceases to be vacant. You no longer expend hours adrift in highlights or pointless reiteration. Each effort to clarify, each rectified error, each inventive examination constructs a sturdy stage. And stage by stage you ascend until you command the unattainable. Ultimately, the recipe is basic but potent. Streamline, instruct, examine, toy, and above everything, labor diligently. There is no sorcery gimmick. There is self-control, there is approach, and there is you implementing it all. When you pledge, the unattainable begins to seem unavoidable because the intellect, when compelled the correct manner, enlarges. And an intellect that enlarges never reverts to its initial dimension. So here's the test. Select a subject today, any subject. Grab a piece of paper, streamline it, clarify it, examine it, toy with it, welcome the errors, and perform it with self-control daily. You'll uncover in action that there are no boundaries for somebody who toils diligently with wisdom. This is the authentic mystery. It's not merely absorbing, it's absorbing the correct manner with sufficient vigor to convert your intellect into an invincible power. If this clip expanded your intellect, it's drop a thumbs up and join so you don't overlook the upcoming teachings. And inform me in the remarks what's the initial item you're set to attempt to absorb employing this strategy. I peruse each remark. Gratitude for viewing to the conclusion. Remain healthy and encounter you in the subsequent